Hello and welcome to part one of our two-part series, Help Bring Back Our Disappearing Birds with These Beautiful Native Shrubs. We're going to show you in this presentation how by simply planting a native shrub, you will attract so many birds into your backyard, and you will be supporting the ecosystem with insects and all sorts of berries and nuts for our birds, and to help reverse this issue of our declining bird populations. And why are birds so important? So birds are essential to our ecosystem, and they're often referred to as nature's barometer. So a thriving bird population will indicate a healthy ecosystem, while a declining bird population signals more environmental issues at work. So what do that helps us? They keep destructive agricultural and forest insects in check. They love to eat insects. Birds help pollinate flowering plants across the globe. So if we're talking about native plants, native shrubs, they help sustain those species as well by eating their berries and dropping the seeds all over and planting more of those plants and helping them grow. They supply waste removal services that prevent disease. So they're keeping everything healthy, keeping the ecosystem healthy. They spread the seed and bring our native plants back into destroyed ecosystems. And they help sustain forests, marshes, grasslands, and prairies. By doing this, they help store carbon and keep our climate stable. So unfortunately, our birds are disappearing at an alarming rate, and it is estimated that we have lost nearly 3 billion birds in the last 3 decades. And I just wanted to mention Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, and she warned us of a future where there might not be so many birds in the air. We might not see their or hear their songs in the spring. And so we want to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. And lucky for us, there's some simple solutions.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, our birds, their connection with our plants and maintaining our natural spaces is so critical just for our own very survival. These plants that they are helping to sow in these natural areas that they are maintaining for us, these plants in these areas are responsible for the quality of the air we breathe, the water we drink, and our weather. The pollinated plants are just critical to our very survival, and birds are critical to our areas of pollinated plants. So we need those birds, and it is so concerning the rapid rate in which they're declining. One of the main reasons for this decline is habitat loss. And basically, habitat loss is loss of native plants. Our birds no longer have enough of the native plants with which they co-evolved and that they need to thrive. If any of you watched our last presentation, which talked, more in depthly about why native plants are so important for our birds, and we talked about those caterpillars and how caterpillars are the most important food source for young birds. They're critical for young birds, and those caterpillars are the young of butterflies and moths, and most of them can only feed on native plants. And as we've removed all these native plants from our landscapes, we've removed our caterpillars to feed our birds, and that's a huge reason why we are seeing such a decline in our bird population. But today we're going to be talking about important native shrubs for our birds. And if you're interested in some of the important native smaller plants, forbs, perennials for our birds, we do have another video that's called Beautiful Native Plants for Birds. But today we're going to be talking about shrubs. Shrubs are part of the understory of our landscapes. And the understory layer of our landscapes is considered by many to be the most important layer. We have our canopy, which is our tall trees. Then we have our understory, which is mostly made up of small understory trees and shrubs. And then, of course, we have the ground cover in the lower level, which would be our root crops, our herbs or forbs, perennials, and our ground covers. But that middle layer, which is what we're going to be talking about today, that is really the powerhouse of our landscapes, and certainly the powerhouse when it comes to our birds. And we're going to be talking about why that is. Before we continue, I'm going to remind you, please like this video to help us get it circulated. And the native shrubs that are in our understory basically provide everything that the birds need. You're going to see in the coming slides that these shrubs and understory trees, they're the host plant for many species of butterfly and moth caterpillars. So they're going to be very efficient at feeding our baby birds with those caterpillars. Remember, you can't raise baby birds if you don't have caterpillars. They provide seeds, berries, and nuts that provide superior nutrition for our adult birds. So we're feeding the babies, we're feeding the adults. They provide great cover and protection. And the structure of many of our native shrubs is very conducive and makes much better nesting sites for our birds. So basically our native shrubs and understory trees, they're really the environment for our birds to create and maintain a healthy bird population.
So we're going to be looking at 8 native shrubs this evening that provide some of the best food and cover for our birds. And they also happen to be gorgeous and will really improve the design of your landscape and your yard. And then next week, we'll be going over 8 more. So we'll have a total of 16 native shrubs that we're going to go over. And these can be found throughout the country. We'll go over the native range for each of these different shrubs. And there's something in here for everyone across the United States. So tonight we'll be covering Black Chokeberry, Buttonbush, Allegheny Serviceberry, Pagoda Dogwood, Red Osier Dogwood, American Hazelnut, Bush Honeysuckle, and American Witch Hazel.
I wish you guys could have heard Lexi and my discussion before we came on tonight. We're looking at these like, oh, I want that one. Oh, I got to get that one. I need more room. Where can I get that one?
We're already planning for the spring planting.
So for next time, we're going to be the next time our next presentation, we're going to be discussing shrubby St. John's wort, common ninebark, choke cherry, meadow rose, black haw viburnum, American elderberry, nannyberry, and staghorn sumac. Powerhouse bird plants.
And gorgeous. So tonight we're starting off with Black Chokeberry. This is an amazing shrub for a formal garden, for a front yard. It's just absolutely beautiful with these white flowers, and it's kind of compact too. So it's a very elegant, beautiful shrub. It grows 3 to 6 feet tall and will do well in full sun to part shade, medium moisture. You'll get these beautiful blooms in May and June. It's also the larval host plant for some at-risk species of butterflies and moths. And that's another bonus of all of these native shrubs is that they just support so many different types of insects, which then go on to feed our beautiful birds. It will have gorgeous red autumn leaves, and it can also stabilize the soil and prevent erosion in both wet and dry conditions. So it's not really picky. Medium soil is great. It's a low maintenance shrub, extremely resistant to disease, as you'll find all of these native shrubs are. And again, great for the landscape, including a formal landscape, and it is salt tolerant as well. So if you need something next to a driveway, this would work well. And
And
we're
I
going to
will
look at
I'll certainly vouch for that because mine is right along my driveway and it doesn't skip a beat.
mine is too. It's just an awesome, awesome shrub. And some of the birds that absolutely love it are the American robin and cedar waxwing, which love to eat the berries. And we're going to take a look at what those berries look like. So this fruit ripens in the late summer and persists into winter, and it provides a critical food source for the robins and the cedar waxwings and other berry-eating birds during the months when there's not much else around. These berries are also rated as having one of the highest antioxidants capacities of all fresh fruits. And the reason they're called chokeberries is because when we eat them as humans, we'll make a face like this because they are very astringent. Birds love this berry, even though it has that chokeberry aspect to it, and it ripens just in time for their fall migration. And along with that berry comes these gorgeous, gorgeous leaves. Just look at those colors, purples, oranges, reds, and this will rival any burning bush and put it to shame. It is native to the eastern US almost all the way, but it doesn't go to Florida. And so you can see here we've got half of the country covered with this gorgeous, gorgeous shrub, and also up in Washington as well, and all the way up into Canada too.
Now, isn't that strange?
It's strange that it's just in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So the light green is its historic native area. The dark green is counties where it is present. The yellow is counties where it is disappeared
It's where it's on the decline. So
on
yeah,
the
there's a
decline.
couple little yellow spots there, and those are the counties on decline. The bright green is the counties where it is found and native, and then the green is the full native range. So we can consider all of those green parts to be native areas.
Very strange the way it just decided to skip over to Washington.
Yeah, the birds
Um,
must have flown over there, dropped the seeds, and it propagated.
Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is buttonbush. And buttonbush is more of, whereas the black chokeberry that we just talked about, the birds love the caterpillars that they get for the babies, and then they love those berries for the adults. Buttonbush is more about the seeds. It produces those seed heads produce a tremendous amount of seeds that the birds absolutely love, and they're highly nutritious for the birds. So buttonbush grows 5 to 12 feet tall. It can be kept well trimmed, so you can definitely keep it on the smaller side of that range. Likes full sun to part shade, medium to wet soil. So this is one that you can have in an average area of your garden, but you can also put it in some of those wet problem sites. Blooms in June. Loved, loved, loved by the pollinators. Will be loaded with pollinators, hummingbirds as well. As I said, takes well to pruning. It is a larval host plant, so it's going to be giving our birds those caterpillars that they need so much. Very attractive foliage and very unique buttony flowers. There you go with the name. Each flower can produce up to 400 seeds. That's like amazing. So think of all the seeds produced on that. And you don't really get it blowing around and forming new ones. They all seem to end up being eaten because they're just loved by the birds. This is a good choice for erosion control. And also if you want to filter pollutants out of your water and putting this in wet areas, this is a wonderful choice. Also a wonderful choice for rain gardens or near downspouts. It will even grow in standing water. So definitely a good plant for some difficult sites. That's hardy in zones 4 to 9. And as you can see here, it's native to the eastern and central US and the lower western US. Big range, very big, look at that, most of the country. That's why our videos, even though we're coming to you from the Chicago area, the plants that we're talking about are native in very large portion of this country and up into Canada. So buttonbush is the larval host plant for 25 species of butterflies and moths, including the Titan sphinx moth, where we can see the top right, and the royal walnut moth, which we see at the bottom right, which I could see that. It looks kind of like a walnut color, I guess. He's very handsome. And those red seed heads, after the white flowers, you get the red seed heads, and they're almost as ornamental. Actually, I think they are as ornamental as the flowers. The white flowers are beautiful, but then you get these red seed heads, which it almost just looks like the plant is blooming red. It bloomed white, now it's blooming red. And those seed heads are loved. One type of our native bird species that is crazy about buttonbush flowers is our famous, popular, widespread red-winged blackbird, harbinger of spring.
And I just love the blackbird, and that's why the blackbirds My background today too. What an awesome, awesome bird. So dramatic. Speaking of dramatic and beautiful, Allegheny Serviceberry. This is a stunning multi-season shrub or a small tree that has huge ecological benefits along with being a beautiful ornamental specimen. It's a multi-trunked large shrub or small tree. It grows 15 to 30 feet and it has this gorgeous white flowers in April and May. There's a close-up of those beautiful flowers. It's one of the first things to bloom in the garden, and it's just a sign that spring has sprung. It's a great replacement for the invasive Callery pear tree. This will rival that any day. And the summer berries that come later on are a favorite of the birds. They're this beautiful pinkish purplish color. It will do great in full to part sun, medium to moist soil. And then in addition to all of these benefits, it has beautiful fall color. It's hardy in zones 4 to 8, and we'll also look at our native range, but it is a host plant for the caterpillars of more than 100 species of butterflies and moths. And that's why when we say these native shrubs are powerhouses of the ecosystem, this is why, because they support so many different insects and creatures.
That's amazing, 100 species.
Absolutely incredible. And here are some of the birds that just love the berries on the serviceberry. Northern cardinal, you can see it on an actual service berry eating away. A gorgeous little bluebird and the cedar waxwing. These are berry loving birds. And this is native to the eastern US.
I just have to say that these, I mean, humans really like these berries as well. But good luck getting them off of there. The birds love these berries so much. They are fighting for them before they're even fully ripe. And I planted a serviceberry about 3 years ago, and this past summer in the Chicago area, we had a big cicada emergence. And so I thought, just to be sure, I know that this is, one of the favorite trees of cicadas. So I thought I'm gonna cover this with you know netting, fabric to try to protect it from all of the cicadas. Well, it worked with my other shrub that I put the netting on, but this one, forget it. Those robins were out there and the birds were out there just pulling that material off. They were having none of it. They said, we are getting to the berries. So I didn't want anybody to get caught in there or anything. So I just took it off. It was like, there was no way I was going to separate those robins from these service berries.
That is hilarious.
Okay, now we have the Pagoda Dogwood, which I'm really, really excited about this one. I planted one of these this year, and I'm really it was beautiful the first year. It's just a stunning specimen plant in any landscape. I mean, formal landscape, woodland landscape, just stunning. It's a large shrub or small tree. As I said, a specimen plant. Very attractive growth habit with these horizontally tiered branches. Almost has a little bit, even though it's a native plant to our area, it almost has a little bit of a Japanese garden look to it with those tiered branches. Just stunning. Grows 15 to 20 feet tall in part sun to full shade. It likes medium to moist soil, and the fragrant white flowers appear in May and June, and of course, loved by our pollinators. And then those pollinators pollinate those flowers, and then the berries come out, and the birds flock to the summer dark blueberries. Very attractive fall foliage, which I can attest to this year. It's hardy in zones 3 to 8. And look at this one, host plant for at least 115 species of caterpillars and moths. That's a lot of baby bird food. So the Pagoda Dogwood is native to the eastern US. And two of the butterflies that it is host for are the spring azure and the summer azure. And there's a close-up of the beautiful flowers that are made up of all these individual little flowers, kind of looks almost like a creamy white when you look at it up close. I can't stress enough how stunning this plant is. And one of the birds that love this is once again our red-winged blackbird, along with many other birds. But we just wanted to show you the red-winged blackbird again here because we were commenting, look at how different the female looks from the male that we saw on a previous slide. Very, very different. But there's our female red-winged blackbird.
She's much more subdued. So another dogwood that is a huge powerhouse is red osier dogwood. And this is a standout shrub with bright red stems, and it provides year-round interest and vital habitat benefits. This one is a little bit on the smaller side, grows 6 to 9 feet tall, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, and it's going to bloom in May and June. It is just gorgeous in all 4 seasons. These spring white flowers are just loved by the pollinators. And then again, those are pollinated and turned into these really delicious white berries. And then it will turn red in the fall. And then the stems in the winter stay this gorgeous bright red, and they just look stunning. It's definitely a great choice for privacy screening, and it's hardy in zones 3 to 8.
I just want to mention with this, there's been a lot of cultivars made of dogwoods, of the red osier dogwood. And like for a really popular one is a variegated leaf, two-tone leaf, white and creamed red twig dogwoods. Those are very popular and were planted a lot. And they tend to peter out and they don't really last long. And you might have like some beautiful stems for a couple of years, but then they tend to die back. They don't seem to be very long-lived shrubs. The real native, the true straight species native red osier dogwood, Cornus sericea, is a much more hardy, long-lived shrub than that very popular cultivar.
So the berries of the red osier dogwood are going to come out in the late summer, early fall. And here's some of the birds that just absolutely love them: cardinals, thrushes, and cedar waxwing. And here you can see a detail of the beautiful flowers, and the leaves are a little bit thicker and waxier. And then here's a stunning red structure that you'll see in the winter. And it's got a dense growth feature, which is great shelter for our smaller birds. And it is also a larval host plant like our pagoda dogwood to the spring azure and the summer azure butterflies, both absolutely gorgeous. And it is native to the upper eastern, upper Midwest, and western US. So a huge swath of the country. This is a native shrub.
American hazelnut, Corylus americana. So this one will give us caterpillars from butterflies and moths, but it's going to feed the adult birds with its nuts. So we're not getting berries here or seed, we're getting nuts with this one. Our American hazelnut is a very attractive and very easy to grow native shrub. This makes a great hedgerow or windbreak around your property, around your patio for privacy. It grows 6 to 15 feet tall. It can be kept trimmed to the lower end of that range. Likes full to part sun, dry to moist soil, very adaptable, again, very easy to grow. This will bloom in April and May, and the flowers are very attracted to pollinators who will pollinate those flowers and cause them to produce nuts that are highly attractive to birds. It's hardy in zones 4 to 9. And look at that. This one is the host plant for more than 120 species of butterfly and moth caterpillars. Wow. The American hazelnut is native to the eastern US. And as we can see here, the polyphemus moth is just one of 120 species whose caterpillars feed on American hazelnut. But here's some of our birds that love nuts and American hazelnut. Our jays, our beautiful jays, our cute little chickadees, our woodpeckers, they're all going to love the nuts from American hazelnut, as will our little squirrel friends, who, if you give them enough hazelnuts, maybe they'll leave your bird feeders alone, right? They got to eat too.
They're so cute. I love
And they
squirrels.
sure do, and they sure do entertain us.
They do. Just don't run into the road, please.
Yeah, please, no, that makes me so nervous when I see that.
It always seems to be in the morning too. I don't know why. It's like I
Because
don't
they're
want to.
so active in the morning and I guess they wake up so hungry, they're just frenzied.
Yeah, looking for the next hazelnut. That's top of my list for planting this coming season. I just am really excited about the hazelnut. What a cool looking shrub. And this one too. I really am kind of obsessed with the dwarf bush honeysuckle. This one is just, it's a low growing shrub, which is nice to have something that can kind of fill in your landscape. And it offers both beauty and utility for bird friendly landscapes. And we're going to see a little bit more about the birds that like to nest in some of these lower shrubs. It only grows 2 to 5 feet tall. It likes full sun to part shade and medium moisture. It's going to bloom with these beautiful yellow flowers. They're kind of trumpet-like flowers from June to July. And those flowers are going to attract so many bees, butterflies, other pollinators, and of course, hummingbirds love this flower shape. So who doesn't want to see more hummingbirds in their yard? It also produces small capsule-like fruits, and these leaves are green in the growing season, but then they're going to turn into a beautiful yellow, reddish purple into the fall. Another name is this bush honeysuckle, but you don't want to confuse it with the non-native invasive honeysuckle. So that's very, very important. We want to make sure we're planting the straight species, the straight native species. And this is drought tolerant and will also work well to prevent erosion. So another reason why we love planting our native shrubs is they hold the soil together and they keep things from washing away.
Yes, be sure you look for, if you're going to be purchasing anything that's a honeysuckle, be sure to look for that Latin name so that you know you're not getting one of the invasive species. Diervilla glanacera.
And here's some pictures of those birds that just love honeysuckle, ruby-throated hummingbird, and then some very interesting ground nesting birds that like to find shelter within the honeysuckle.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
no worries. Uh, so we have some very interesting looking birds, the American woodcock and Wilson snipe with very long beaks, which are low ground nesting birds, and then this killdeer, which tends to like, Kathy, you were saying it likes rockier conditions, which native honeysuckle can also grow in those rockier conditions too.
Interesting. So killdeer will also nest like in a ground, a lower ground thicket of dwarf honeysuckle or these smaller shrubs. That's interesting.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful little bird. And it's also the host plant for the laurel sphinx moth and the gorgeous snowberry clearwing moth.
Doesn't that snowberry clearwing moth have stunning colors?
Just fascinating. That is such a cool looking insect.
Our American witch hazel, and I know we sound like nerds, but we were just talking about where on Lexi's property we're going to fit an American witch hazel. Because, I mean, is that not phenomenal in the spring? That puts a forsythia, a spring blooming forsythia to shame. Not that, we're saying remove for all your forsythias if you love them. They're not invasive species, but really this is just a stunner in the spring and provides so much service to our birds and our insects. The American witch hazel, Hamamelis virginiana. It's a large shrub or a small tree that'll grow 10 to 20 feet tall. It likes full sun to full shade, dry to moist soil. If that isn't as adaptable as they come, I don't know what is. I can't think of a place where it won't grow. Blooms September to November. Think of that, September to November. So that's like a late blooming thing. I'm sorry, I misspoke saying the spring. So it's going to look like that September. So that's a fall blooming. How often do you see shrubs that are blooming in the fall? That's stunning. That would be stunning. Hardy in zones 3 to 8. The flowers are very unique too. It's like little hairs. They're loved by pollinators. So what a critical plant this is going to be for our late season pollinators, especially the ones who are getting ready to migrate. The birds love the fruit, which is small seed capsules. And this is the host plant to at least 70 species of butterflies and moths. So lots of caterpillars for the baby birds. It is native to the eastern and central US, and it's best known for its that's a good word for it, its fringed yellow flowers, which appear in late fall and stay on the branches long after the leaves have dropped. Even in the cold Midwest, the blooms persist into November and beyond. That's amazing, and that's stunning, and that's a awesome picture you found of this, Lexi, of it later in the season with all those leaves gone, and this is still hanging on, giving a show. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I also thought that the fruit description is really interesting, and that's why I can't wait to plant one of these and see what that fruit is like. But it's actually a very hard, nut-like kind of fruit. And so these ground feeding birds actually love that stuff. So the grouse is a ground feeding bird, and the cardinal also likes those berries as well, or the fruit, sorry. All right, and that takes us through our first 8 native shrubs that are great for birds and supporting our disappearing birds. And so, as we've shown this evening, these native shrubs, they provide food, shelter, and ecological support for our birds throughout the year. And if you plant one of them, if you plant all of them, you're doing a great service to your local ecosystem and supporting our beautiful, beautiful birds. And we just wanted to leave you with this quote: "Nature is not a place to visit, it is home." Gary Snyder, an American poet. And here's this little tufted titmouse. And if he would like to make his home in our backyard, we would love that because he is so cute.
It looks like he might be on, does that look like maybe it's a sumac? Look at those berries, or look at the fruit that's on there in front of him. What would you say that is?
Yeah, maybe it's a sumac, and that's another one that's on the list.
We'll
So
be
we'll be
talking
talking.
about sumac next week.
Yep.
So with that, we're going to say thank you again for joining us. We love the community. We love bringing you this information. Thank you for all of your feedback. And we will see you with our next presentation as we continue this talk of native shrubs for our beautiful birds. Good night.